The bow hold is one of the fundamental techniques of violin playing, so it's important to know what the ideal bow hold looks like and how to develop it. Dounis had many exercises for teaching his students the ideal bow hold. One of the first things that he would have them do was to pick up a pencil off the table. When you naturally pick up a pencil, or any object really, you tend to hold it at the balance point because that's where it's the easiest to hold. And the main fingers that you hold with are the middle finger and thumb. Notice how your other fingers were more or less in their natural curve and had a natural spacing to them. This spacing is similar to what you would have if your hand was relaxed outside. When holding the bow, we don't hold it at the balance point. We hold it at the frog, which isn't balanced. It's a good idea though to practice holding the bow at the balance point. Start with just your middle finger and thumb. Then drop the other fingers down. Keep these other fingers in their natural curve and make sure that they have the natural spacing. It's also a good idea to practice playing while holding the bow at the balance point. This will give you a good feeling for what a balanced bow hold feels like, and this is really important, especially for beginners. When holding the bow at the frog, it's first important to know where the thumb goes. The thumb is going to go in between the grip and the frog, and the middle finger is going to go right on top of it. The thumb should be the loosest finger in your bow hold at all times, so make sure not to tense it up when holding the bow. Then drop the other fingers down. Make sure that only the fingertips of those fingers touch the stick, and the pinky goes on top of the stick. For violinists and violists, you want to feel like the bow is resting in your fingers, and a good way to get this feeling is by holding the bow again at the balance point, and by holding it with only the 4 fingertips of your fingers, not including the thumb, like this. For cellists, the bow is going to rest more so on your thumb and your hand, but keep this feeling when you hold the bow at the frog. If you feel that it's difficult to keep the bow balanced while holding it at the frog, it's a good idea to practice strengthening the fingers. One exercise that Dounis has students do was bow crawls. Start at the frog and keep the bow flat to the ground. Then crawl across the stick using only your fingers. As you crawl, try not to move the bow too much. Keep it as flat to the ground as possible. If your fingers get tired, you can stop and swirl the bow in your fingers like this. When you get all the way to the tip, flip the bow around and crawl back to the frog. It's a good idea to do a few of these every day, especially if you're a beginner. Another great exercise to do for your bow hold is the bow whip. This is a great exercise to do, especially if you ever have fears that the bow might fall out of your hand. Start with the bow flat, and then whip it in the air fast enough so that you hear the whipping sound. One way to check to see if you have the ideal bow hold is by relaxing your hand at the side. Then bring your hand up without changing anything and place the bow into your fingers. It's important to note that your hand should be slightly pronated when holding the bow, as if you had just turned a doorknob. Place the bow into your fingers without really moving the fingers at all. Make sure that only the fingertips are touching the stick, and that your fingers remain loose and relaxed. You might find it hard to maintain the ideal bow hold while playing, but the bow crawl and the bow whip will really help with strengthening your fingers so you can fully support the weight of the bow while playing. When you can do that, you'll find that it's much easier to keep the ideal bow hold. You want to avoid resting the weight of the bow into the string. You should always feel like you have full control of the weight of the bow with just your fingers.